Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're tackling a real humdinger. We're going deep on a single painting, Jean-Auguste-Dominique Ingres' Grande Odalisque.
Ooh, yeah, this one's a classic.
We've got a whole bunch of academic papers, encyclopedia entries, the whole 9 yards to really try to figure this painting out.
Sounds like fun.
This painting is controversial and a masterpiece, and centuries later, people are still talking about it. So what is it about this one painting that just keeps fascinating people? Well, get this Ingres' use of anatomy in this painting. You know, it's really something. Makes you wonder if he was like a genius or if he just couldn't draw a straight line.
Yeah, Grande Odalisque, it really is more than meets the eye. There's artistic movements at play here, beauty standards, even like cultural assumptions. It's really like a window into a very specific moment in time.
Right.
So much going on in this one painting.
Yeah, so maybe we should just start with like the artist himself. What do we know about Ingres?
Yeah.
Well, our sources are describing him as like this fascinating mix of old and new. He's deeply rooted in Neoclassicism, which like emphasized order and clarity and, drew inspiration from ancient Greece and Rome.
Right.
But then you have Grande Odalisque, and he seems to be like pushing those boundaries a bit.
It is interesting, right? He was trained in the tradition of Jacques-Louis Guizot, the giant of Neoclassicism.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But even with that, Ingres wasn't afraid to inject his own personality into his work.
Right.
And even like a touch of the emerging romantic style.
Oh, wow.
And this created a tension between the precise, almost cold beauty of classicism and the more emotional, expressive elements of romanticism.
So he's really like straddling two worlds.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That kind of makes me think about like the backstory of the painting.
Yeah.
Because like it was commissioned by Napoleon's sister, Queen Caroline Murat of Naples.
I know, right.
But she never even got it.
Oh.
Her kingdom fell apart along with Napoleon's empire.
Right.
And the painting wasn't even shown publicly until years later in Paris.
So, like, do you think that change in location, like, impacted how people viewed it?
Oh, absolutely. Context is like everything in art,
Right.
Just imagine like all the conversations like swirling around this painting if it had been unveiled in a royal court.
Totally.
Versus the intellectual and artistic hub of Paris.
Oh, for sure.
Totally different vibe.
Completely different. Okay, so let's get into the painting itself.
All right, let's do it.
What are we looking at? Well, we see this reclining figure, the odalisque,
right,
surrounded by all these luxurious fabrics, and she's gazing directly at us.
That gaze.
That gaze. Her pose is fascinating.
It really is.
Our sources mention the influence of Renaissance masters.
Yeah.
Like Titian.
Of course.
But also like that classicism of David that we were just talking about.
Right, but Ingres definitely puts his own spin on it.
Okay, I like that.
It's in that twist, that unique interpretation where we start to see his genius. He creates this atmosphere of exoticism.
Right, with
the hookah, the turban, the peacock fan.
It's all very exotic feeling.
Playing into this European fascination with the Orient, and here's where it gets really interesting. Ingres never even visited the Middle East.
What?
I know, crazy, right?
So he's like creating this whole image based on imagination and not reality.
Pretty much.
Wow. That totally changes how we view this whole painting, especially when we think about how cultures are represented in art.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly complicates things, doesn't it?
It really does.
Grande Odalisque becomes less about an accurate depiction of a specific place.
Right.
And more about this like romanticized, almost fantastical vision of the other.
Okay.
And this idea of Orientalism, how Western cultures depicted the East, is a whole discussion in itself.
For sure.
And this painting sits right at the heart of it.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think that brings us to the elephant in the room.
Let's do it.
The anatomy.
Oh, yeah.
Our sources did not hold back.
No, they did not.
They called out the, shall we say, unconventional proportions of the odalisque.
Unconventional is a good word.
We're talking an extra long back, oddly positioned limbs, and just like a general elongation of the body.
Yeah, some critics at the time were quite brutal.
Whoa.
One even said that the painting lacked bones or muscle blood or life. They basically called Ingres a bad artist.
Oh my gosh.
But was he really just a bad draftsman? Or was he making a deliberate choice?
I mean, that is the question, isn't it?
It is.
One source suggests that Ingres was actually commenting on the idealized female form that dominated Western art for centuries.
Interesting take.
Maybe he was pushing back against those standards, questioning the very idea of, like, perfect beauty.
It's possible.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, if we look at those elongated lines, especially that impossibly long back,
Right.
it's hard not to see a connection to the prevailing beauty standards of the 19th century. There was
Right.
like a fascination with the female form,
Sure.
a certain emphasis on curves
Yeah.
that Ingres seems to be both echoing and distorting.
So he's like playing with our expectations,
Yeah.
making us question like what we find beautiful and why.
Exactly.
He's not just painting a figure.
Nope.
He's making a statement.
Precisely. And this is where Grande Odalisque gets really thought-provoking. By distorting the body, Ingres forces us to confront our own assumptions about beauty,
Right.
desire,
Yeah.
and how women are portrayed in art.
Wow. Heavy stuff.
Yeah, it's getting deep. Okay, so we've talked about Ingres, we've talked about the context, we've talked about the body, we've talked about these beauty standards.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's one more big thing we have to tackle,
Okay, let's hear it.
and it's that gaze. The odalisque is looking right at us.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not a passive, inviting look.
It's not.
It's almost challenging, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a direct, unflinching gaze that really draws you in.
Yeah,
But it's also a bit unsettling, isn't it?
it is, yeah.
Like she's aware of being looked at,
Yes.
observed, perhaps even objectified.
Yeah,
Our sources really dive into this idea of the male gaze.
right. The way women are often depicted as objects of male desire,
Right.
their own agency and subjectivity kind of erased.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big one.
And here, the odalisque seems to be pushing back against that
I
gaze.
think so, too.
It's like she's in control, demanding that we acknowledge her presence and her power.
It's powerful.
It is powerful.
Yeah.
So, like, how does Ingres pull this off?
How does he do it?
Yeah.
Well, it's fascinating how he manages to create this tension
Right.
between beauty and defiance,
Mm-hmm.
passivity and agency,
Yeah.
all within a single look.
Yeah.
And it connects back to those distorted proportions we were talking about.
Oh, wow. So it all ties back together.
You know, by exaggerating certain features, Ingres is simultaneously playing into and subverting the expectations of the male gaze.
He's really making us question our own perceptions,
He is.
forcing us to see the odalisque as more than just a beautiful object.
Exactly. It's a work that demands to be analyzed,
Right.
discussed, even argued about.
And sure.
And that's one of the reasons why Grande Odalisque continues to resonate with people today over 2 centuries later. It's a painting that sparks conversation,
For sure.
even controversy.
Well, speaking of controversy, it's pretty clear that this painting wasn't exactly a crowd pleaser when it debuted.
Oh, no, definitely not.
It ruffled some feathers, to say the least.
Definitely. It was a scandal. The combination of the exotic subject matter, the suggestive pose, and those, shall we say, creative anatomical interpretations,
Yeah.
it all added up to a pretty shocking image for the time.
And what was it? Was it like the nudity?
I mean, maybe?
Or was it the fact that the odalisque isn't even European?
Yeah, possibly.
Or maybe it was the way Ingres seemed to be breaking all the rules of traditional art.
It was likely a mix of all those factors. You know, the painting challenged the prevailing artistic norms,
Like-
both in terms of technique and subject matter.
Right.
And it tapped into some anxieties around race, sexuality, and cultural representation that were very much alive in 19th century Europe.
It's wild to think that this one painting could ignite such a firestorm.
I know, right? It's crazy.
It's a testament to the power of art, to provoke, to challenge, to push boundaries.
Absolutely. And that's why Grande Odalisque is still so relevant today. Those same anxieties, those same debates about representation,
Right.
sexuality, and the role of art in society are still very much with us.
It's true. They haven't gone away.
Nope.
But, okay, let's not forget about, like, the positive impact.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Our sources talk about, like, the incredible influence this painting has had on other artists.
Oh, absolutely. Grande Odalisque was a game changer. Its impact on later artists, from Manet and Degas to Picasso and Matisse, is undeniable. Those unconventional proportions, that mysterious gaze, that sense of tension between classicism and modernity.
Yeah.
It all seeped into the artistic consciousness and inspired generations of artists to come.
It's like Ingres planted a seed, and it grew into this incredible sprawling tree of artistic expression.
Beautiful. I like that.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating is that even contemporary artists are still engaging with Grande Odalisque,
Yeah, right.
reinterpreting it, reimagining it,
Yeah,
finding new ways to connect with its themes and its power.
it's really cool.
It's amazing how one work of art can have such a ripple effect across time and cultures.
Absolutely.
And it speaks to the fact that Ingres tapped into something universal, something timeless.
I think you're right. Grande Odalisque is more than just a painting. It's a reflection of ourselves.
Wow.
Our desires, our anxieties, our fascination with beauty and the other. It's a work that continues to evolve with us, revealing new layers of meaning as our own understanding of the world changes.
That's so well said. So we've talked about the artist, the historical context, the technical brilliance, the symbolism, the controversy, the legacy.
It's a lot.
But why is Grande Odalisque still so captivating even after all these years? What makes it stand out among the countless other masterpieces in art history?
That's the question, isn't it? You know, I think it comes down to the fact that Ingres managed to create a work that is both visually stunning and intellectually stimulating.
Okay, I like that.
It's a painting that seduces you with its beauty,
right,
and then challenges you to think deeper, to question your assumptions, to confront uncomfortable truths.
Oh, I like that.
It's got it all.
He really gives us a lot to chew on.
He does.
With his painting.
Absolutely. It's a feast for the mind and the eyes.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so we've done a lot of unpacking here, but we are just getting started.
Oh, yeah, we've got so much more to talk about.
We do.
We've only just scratched the surface. So much more to explore, but we're going to have to take a quick break.
Yes, we are.
We'll be right back, so don't go anywhere.
All right, welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're still unpacking all the layers of Ingres' Grande Odalisque.
So much to talk about.
And we left off talking about how this painting kind of challenges us intellectually.
Oh, definitely. It's like he gave us this beautiful puzzle box and said, figure it out.
Exactly.
And what's so brilliant is that there's no single right answer, you know? Each viewer brings their own experiences, their own perspectives to the painting, and that shapes how they interpret it.
So true.
It becomes this ongoing dialogue between the artwork and the viewer, which is what keeps it so alive and relevant.
I love that. It's not a static object.
Yep.
It's a living conversation.
Yeah.
And what's even more interesting is that Ingres himself didn't leave behind like any detailed explanations of his intentions.
Right. We have like some letters and a few comments here and there.
Right.
But nothing that explicitly tells us what he was trying to achieve with Grande Odalisque.
Oh, yeah.
That mystery just adds another layer to the fascination.
Yeah.
Like, what was he thinking?
Yeah. So we're left with these clues, his artistic choices, the historical context, the reactions of critics and the public. But ultimately, it's up to us to piece it all together.
And that's the beauty of it. It's an invitation to engage with art on a deeper level, to look beyond the surface and grapple with the complexities of meaning and interpretation.
Yeah.
It's not about finding the right answer.
Right.
It's about the process of thinking critically and engaging in a conversation with the artwork.
It's like Ingres is whispering across time, asking us,
I like that.
what do you see?
Exactly. And every answer is valid. Every perspective adds to the richness of the conversation.
Yeah.
That's what makes art so powerful, so enduring.
This has been such an incredible journey. We started with just one painting.
Right.
And we've ended up exploring art history, cultural assumptions, beauty standards, and so much more.
And we've barely scratched the surface. There are entire libraries filled with books and articles analyzing Grande Odalisque from every conceivable angle.
I can only imagine. It's clear that this one painting has sparked centuries of debate, analysis, and inspiration.
Absolutely.
But I have to ask, after all this deep diving, what stands out to you the most?
Yeah.
What's the one thing about Grande Odalisque that you'll never forget?
That's a tough one.
I know it's a big question.
You know, for me, it always comes back to that gaze.
That gaze.
That direct, unflinching look that seems to pierce through time and connect directly with the viewer. It's a gaze that challenges us.
Yes.
Questions us, and ultimately invites us to see the world and ourselves in a new light.
I couldn't agree more. It's a look that stays with you long after you've left the museum.
Right.
A look that keeps the conversation going.
And that's the magic of Grande Odalisque. It's a painting that continues to resonate, to provoke, and to inspire, ensuring that the dialogue between art and viewer will continue for generations to come.
So, to all you deep divers out there.
Hey, deep divers.
The next time you encounter Grande Odalisque, whether it's in person at the Louvre or in a book or online,
doesn't matter how you see it.
Take a moment to really look at it.
Yeah.
Let yourself get lost in that gaze and see what conversations it sparks within you.
And remember, there's always more to discover, more to unpack, more to discuss. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those deep dives going.
Until next time, happy diving.
And we are back for our final deep dive into Ingres' Grande Odalisque.
I can't believe we are already at the end.
It always goes by so fast.
I know, right?
Okay, so last time we were talking about how this painting it stays with you.
It really does.
That gaze follows you home,
Yeah, it's hard to shake.
But we never really answered the big question. Why is Grande Odalisque still so captivating after all these years?
That is the million-dollar question.
I mean, what makes this painting stand out among all the other masterpieces out there? We've analyzed it, we've talked about the context, we've explored all the different layers.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
So, what's the big takeaway? Why does this painting still matter?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier about how it's a dialogue, It's not just a pretty picture on a wall.
It's so much more.
It's a conversation starter. It makes you think, it makes you feel, it makes you question.
And it's been doing that for centuries. Exactly.
That's got to count for something.
It really does.
I mean, how many paintings can you say that about? It's like Ingres tapped into something, some kind of universal truth about humanity that transcends time and place.
I think so. It's like he captured this essence of desire and beauty and the longing for something beyond ourselves.
Ooh, that's good.
And then he wrapped it all up in this package of technical brilliance.
Right, the brushstrokes, the colors, the composition.
It's all so masterfully done.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it's not just about technique, is it? It's about the ideas, the emotions, the things that make us human.
Exactly. It's that perfect marriage of form and content, It's like a delicious meal that nourishes both your mind and your soul.
I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
Right.
So if Ingres was here with us today, what do you think he'd say about all the fuss we've made over his painting? Do you think he'd be pleased? Or maybe a little bit embarrassed?
Honestly, I think he'd be thrilled. Yeah, I mean, this is an artist who loved to push boundaries, to provoke, to challenge the status quo. He wasn't afraid of a little controversy. In fact, I think he thrived on it.
I bet you're right.
So to see his painting still sparking debate and inspiring conversation over 200 years later, I think he'd be over the moon.
Well, I think we can all agree that Grande Odalisque is more than just a pretty picture. It's a masterpiece that continues to challenge and inspire us even all these years later.
Definitely. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's the final takeaway here for our listeners?
Well, I guess it would be this. The next time you have a chance to see Grande Odalisque, whether it's in person or in a book or online, take a moment to really look at it. Don't just glance and move on. Spend some time with it. Let it wash over you.
Really soak it in.
And ask yourself those big questions. What do you see? What do you feel? What does this painting say to you?
Because there are no wrong answers.
Exactly. It's all about the journey, the exploration, the conversation. And that's what makes art so powerful, so enriching.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Oh, I'm sad to see it end.
Me too. But I'm already excited for the next one.
Same here. Always ready for another adventure in art.
Thanks so much for joining us on this journey into the world of Grande Odalisque. We hope you learned something new, maybe saw the painting in a new light, and maybe even felt inspired to go out and explore more art on your own.
Go forth and deep dive, everyone.
Until next time.